I was walking down a marina not long ago, one of those places that used to feel alive, and something felt off. Same slips, same boats, but way too many for sale signs. It used to be that boats would move off the dock fast, but today, many of these same boats are sitting unsold, month after month. In fact, industry analysts now warn that supply has exploded, demand has contracted, leaving up to 30% of the boats currently for sale that will probably never find a buyer. In this story, we'll break down why the boat market flipped so suddenly. But before then, let me know in the comment section whether you've witnessed this trend in your area. Let's get into it. Just a few years ago, selling a sailboat was almost guaranteed. During 2020 to 2022, a wave of new and first-time boat buyers, many stuck at home, poured into the market. New registrations spiked and used boats often sold for more than their original price. But that bubble couldn't last. By late 2023, the market suddenly snapped back to reality. One brokerage noted, more yachts coming on the market, more price drops, and longer time periods from listing to selling, compared to the manic days of 2020 to 2021. In other words, lots of boats, few buyers, and prices heading down. The data confirm this reversal. In fact, a global analysis found that used boat sales fell sharply in 2024. Overall second-hand boat sales dropped about 9% worldwide in 2025, with smaller boats and lower price ranges getting hit the hardest. Some models are seeing prices fall by 20 to 25% from their peak. Boats that a year ago could be sold in days are now on the market months longer. A recent report from New Zealand even notes that 1- and 2-year-old boats were spending 75 days longer unsold than in 2023. Why are so many boats flooding the market? Part of it is simple supply and demand. Many people who bought or built boats during the boom are now ready to sell. Perhaps they realized cruising isn't what they expected, or life circumstances changed. At the same time, the pool of buyers has shrunk. With cheap financing gone and inflation biting, fewer people are jumping into boat ownership. The result? Docks overflowing with inventory. One brokerage study paints a stark picture. In popular sailing regions like the Caribbean and Europe, boats for sale far exceed what the market can handle. They bluntly conclude that up to 30% of the boats currently for sale will probably never find a buyer. That's nearly 1 in 3 boats just sitting idle. Practically speaking, it means sellers are forced to make big cuts. Boats that sold for $300,000 or more during the boom now might only fetch $200,000 or less, unless they drastically lower expectations. In short, the market is completely flooded, and only the best-priced and newest boats are moving. Everything else is piling up on the docks. Several factors crushed buyer demand almost overnight. First, high interest rates made financing boats much harder. In the pandemic, low interest rates and stimulus money helped buyers afford big purchases. By 2023, loan rates had jumped, so monthly payments for any financed boat rose dramatically. Second, inflation made everything else more expensive. A family thinking about a boat might decide to pay their mortgage or other bills instead. One market report specifically calls out inflation and higher borrowing costs for dampening consumer demand, especially in the used boat segment. Meanwhile, the cost of new boats climbed so high that some buyers did switch to recent models instead of classic ones. But as sellers discovered, even that shift doesn't absorb all the old stock. Another reason is a change in boat design. Manufacturers introduced dozens of new models with modern features. A 10 to 15-year-old sailboat suddenly feels outdated. One industry write-up notes that major shipyards are renewing their model lines faster than ever, making older boats seem obsolete even if they're in good condition. In other words, buyers got spoiled by shiny new versions with nicer layouts and electronics, and now the old boats have lost a lot of their relative value. Put together, these trends mean today's boat shoppers are pickier and more scarce. Luxury sailboats above $500,000 still find buyers if priced well, but boats under $300,000 are often ignored. A market newsletter summarized the situation neatly. The once unreal prices of 2020 to 21 have no justification today. Sellers who cling to their old price tags are learning this the hard way. It's not just economics, it's also about who is in the market. The boating community is getting older. In the US, the median boat owner is about 60 years old, and there are actually more owners in their 70s than in their 40s. In plain terms, the people who bought sailboats in the early 2000s are still the ones selling them today. But now they're decades older. Few millennials or Gen Zs are stepping in to replace them. Boat ownership used to be a family tradition passed down. Now the next generation often has different priorities or financial constraints. Lifestyle plays a role too. Caring for an older boat takes time and money, cleaning hulls, maintaining sails, updating gear. Some retirees happily do this, but many younger professionals want high-tech convenience or travel in other ways. During the pandemic, many city dwellers discovered boating for the first time, but as routines resumed, some realized long-term boat ownership wasn't for them. That leaves a lot of sailing veterans who suddenly find themselves wanting out. They list their boats for sale at the same time, leading to the glut we see now. Even among current boaters, the way people use boats is shifting. Charters and boat sharing have grown, meaning more boats are entering and leaving the market quickly. With social media and easier travel, many would-be cruisers got a taste via charters instead of buying, leaving sellers competing for a smaller pool of true buyers. The upshot is, fewer new buyers are catching the sailing bug, so the oversupply of used boats has no natural outlet. There's another wrinkle that keeps these boats around. Disposal is hard. Nearly all sailboats are made of fiberglass, which lasts a very long time, but almost never breaks down naturally. According to one environmental analysis, the US alone has about 12 million registered boats, most fiberglass, with an average life of 30 to 40 years. That means many boats built in the 1970s to 90s are finally reaching retirement age. But where do they go? Unlike cars, old fiberglass boats aren't easily recycled or scrapped. In fact, experts warn that waves of older fiberglass boats continue to pile up at the end of their life. On many rivers, lakes, and marinas, you see derelict hulks tied up or even sunk. Take Florida, for example. By early 2025, over 1,000 boats were abandoned statewide, and the Fish and Wildlife Agency has spent over $9 million hauling them away. People often give up on repair costs, especially after storms. One boatyard operator in Florida notes that storm damage plus rising marina fees lead some owners to simply walk away. The result is what officials call a growing, derelict vessel problem. Environmentally, it can leak oil and antifreeze, and financially, it burdens everyone else who has to clean up. So part of why so many used sailboats are literally piling up is that they can't just vanish. Every unwanted vessel is either sold, stored indefinitely, or eventually abandoned. With demand down, more boats linger in storage or anchorages or sadly turn into navigational hazards. The current situation is painful for sellers, but market experts say there are ways to cope. Most important, price realistically and maintain your boat well. A recent industry guide puts it bluntly. To sell in this market, you need 1. A realistic price, not the inflated number we saw in 2021. 2. Clear knowledge of your boat's true value. 3. A solid maintenance and history record so buyers feel confident. 4. Accept that demand is much lower now than in 2020 to 22. For boat buyers, on the other hand, this glut is good news. High-quality sailboats can be had for bargains if you're patient and do your homework. But sellers often have to trim expectations. Looking ahead, some analysts expect a gradual recovery. By late 2026 and into 2027, as interest rates stabilize and inflation eases, the market may slowly rebalance. New listings are expected as owners who bought at the height of the market finally come to sell, which will again add inventory, but perhaps also bring in some motivated buyers. In any case, the era of buy anything, sell it for more is over. So there you have it. The tall stack of unsold used sailboats isn't magic, it's math and reality. All that remains is for buyers and sellers to adjust their courses to the reality of this new boating era.